welcome everybody. Today we will be learning Orot HaTshuva, Perek Aleph, and we'll be continuing in the third paragraph.
Great. Here we go.
Yeah.
So just for a review, we mentioned in the last session that tshuva is, an underlying theme for all Rav Kook's work and life itself. And before we get into what he really calls the ultimate tshuva, we first said that you have to be, part of tshuva is being in a healthy state. And we said he broke it up into three things. I'm going back, he said there's tshuva tivit, and tshuva tivit had two parts to it. There's gufani, being healthy, physically healthy, because as we said, without sleep, you can't really learn properly. You can't really function properly if you're not healthy, physically healthy. And Rav Kook obviously puts an emphasis on the physical land, physical body, that it's very important. And therefore you need, I think it's obvious as well, you need a sound body, sound mind, right? So
yeah, I want to add on that. I think that I've experienced, since when I went to Miluim for the first 5 months of the war, when I came back to the Beit Midrash, like in Miluim already, I had a lot of stress from different things, like being in different situations, that then it was sort of almost chronic, in that, not really, but it was something that was hard for me to relax and be calm, and that influenced my learning, because, and influenced a lot of things, of my capability to just, calmly learn something, sit down, give it thought. There was some desire for something to happen, and only certain types of learning that were really engaging, where there was something very almost surprising in the learning, like Reb Tzadok. I wanted to learn more Reb Tzadok, and I couldn't learn certain just Gemara Pekut. I felt like it was I wasn't settled. I wasn't relaxed to be able to peacefully sit down and think about something, think it through, and I had I was antsy, and so that's just another example of maybe that's the second version of TV nafshi. But it's also gufani.
I think that's gufani, if you're not in a healthy physical state, stressed out.
Exactly, you could be stressed out for lots of reasons.
You can't function properly, in all the mitzvot, you can't do them properly.
Right.
So we said gufani was the first part. Another TV thing we said is TV ruchani or nafshit, which was that there's a natural state of being yashar, to be a nice person to the people around you, not to steal, to honor one's parents, to treat people properly. And if you're not doing it properly, you're not in a natural state. You don't feel good about yourself. You can't move on. Someone doesn't have shalom bayit in their house, it's very difficult to function, especially to grow in a spiritual way. And therefore we had natural physical, natural spiritual states, which someone has to choser b'tshuva, like the world. God made it that you naturally, if you're unhealthy, you want to become healthy. You're forced to becoming healthy in a little bit of way. That's a part of tshuva. And also, spiritually, if you're acting improperly against the moral code of the world and of your own intuition, things don't work properly. You got to get back on track. And that's really the first stage of tshuva. But now we're up to the next stage.
Yeah.
Okay, which is the second part of tshuva, second type of tshuva, which he's going to call here in the third paragraph starting. He calls it Acharei HaTshuva Tivit Ba HaEmunit, is the tshuva of emuna, or our beliefs. Hi achaya ba'olam mimakor. This exists in the world from the source of mesoret and dat. He splits these two things up. Naturally, we follow our traditions as Jews, and dat, the religion. She oseket harbe b'tshuva. The prophets, the Torah, all our svarim, they tell us that one needs to do tshuva, reward and punishment, and how to get back close to God, and you have to do the mitzvah of tshuva. And haTorah mafticha l'shavei pesha slicha, that if you do tshuva and return to God, Yeshayahu, Yirmiyahu, Yecheskel, and even the Torah itself, say do tshuva and you'll get slicha.
Right.
Parshat Achrei Mot, Yom Kippur.
That, just to make sure I understand, that is based on the idea that tshuva stems from doing something wrong. Meaning, in the tshuva emunit, there's these ways of living life, there's these rules that you should abide, and if you don't, so you've sinned, and now you need to fix your ways, and if you do tshuva, so you'll get slicha, you'll be forgiven.
Right. We mentioned last time too that the word chet means just to miss. You're missing the opportunity. You're missing things, and we were discussing that, that it comes after the tshuva gufanit, because tshuva gufanit is more natural to us to be in a healthy state. However, the religious type of tshuva, to be following God's ways and His commandments and the mitzvot, really that's also our natural order. The natural order for us to feel healthy for a Jew. For non-Jews, I think it includes the 7 mitzvahs b'nei Noach. But for a Jew, Rav Kook says throughout his works that if you're keeping the 613 mitzvahs, Chavarim Shasagidim, that's called being in a healthy state. And it's not as natural as the first type. And therefore, it's like almost like a second stage that in order to, and the Torah tells us, come back to God's ways, come back and fulfill the mitzvot and don't do averas, because that is our natural state. In fact, we have, I like to give the parable, I think the Chidah says it, that our clothing, we have 2 sleeves on our shirts. Why? Because we have 2 arms. But why do we have 2 arms? And the answer is because our body's made up of Ramach Ivarim Shasagidim, where we have 613 mitzvot, which is the core of our neshama. And on that, we have a dress of 613, let's say, limbs and ligaments that on top of it goes our actual clothing, right? And therefore, we're speaking about natural state, healthy and physically. Our neshama's natural state is to do these 613 mitzvahs. And therefore, the Torah tells us this and tells us do tshuva so that you could be in your natural state again, have slicha and get back to a healthy state spiritually as well. And without the Torah, we would be able to be healthy physically, or according to the first stage, nafshit, spiritually being yashar people, straight people. But the Torah, we need the Torah and the Munah and the prophets that bring us back to a healthy state spiritually as well.
Right. I think that one makes me think like, okay, so where does he get this from? Where's like a body of knowledge that deals with this like natural states, like a chidush? Like maybe it's not to us because we believe that because we believe in the mitzvot and we believe in Matan Torah, but I think that it makes me think of Derech Hashem of the Ramchal, who like maps it out right in the beginning. He says the human is made out of a body and a soul. Like that's the 2, right? And that's from Bereshit, right? Pach ba'apav nishmat chaim, that there's the soul, and the soul is part of our nature. And just as much as we have the human nature as the body, the human nature, being a human, is also the spiritual soul.
And how will we know what the correct status for a soul is? So when you do the mitzvahs, it feels great. And someone who's sensitive to spirituality will recognize that by doing the mitzvahs, by keeping Shabbat, and keeping it properly, you're tapping into the natural state of what a human being should be doing, or at least a Jew, as far as Shabbat goes, and for a non-Jew, of course, the Sheva Mitzvah B'nai Noach, that this is our natural state for our spirituality, for our neshamas, and physically as well with the first part.
Okay, excellent.
So he says, Chataot ha-yachid va-tzibur, the mistakes, the sins of the individual and of the tzibur, nimachim al-yidei tshuva. You could erase them through tshuva. This is a concept throughout all of Torah, that you could turn your averas into mitzvah, especially through tshuva has the ability to reach deep inside into a person's neshama, find the source of where it came from, that I made this mistake, and turn it around from within. We'll speak about it later on, which can actually unbelievably, change history, even go back and make everything find the source of good in everything that is done.
Yeah. That's like what Rav Kook, that was like the way he saw history, the way he saw reality, like always trying to see the good. And I think that you're right, it's like a perspective on life that we're going to be enlightened by that perspective.
We call it Yerida Shitzorach Aliyah, like going down in order to go up, of finding a way to make all the negative things we could have done or that exist out there and turning them into positives, really seeing how, like the saying davening, we say, Allah kol modim anachnu lefnecha. Everything is the best situation, even our mistakes. They're the klipots, but there's definitely good there that could turn into a greater good.
My grandfather shared with me another place we see that.
Which grandfather? Which side?
My dad's dad, who just made Aliyah this summer.
What's his name?
He goes by Al. Abraham Maimon. He shared with me, we say in Borei Nefashot rabot v'chesronam al kol ma shebarata.
Even on the lax.
Yeah, like it's explicit there. Borei Nefashot in a bracha.
Very nice. I never heard that before. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful. So he says the Nevi'im, our prophets, are Male'im, Heim Dvarim Niskavim, very lofty thoughts and words. Al Dvar Tshuva, speak about Tshuva. Bichlal, and in general. Kol Erech HaTochacha, all the Tochecha, the rebuke that the Torah gives us. Kitavo, HaTorah, HaTorit Banui, the Torah's Tochacha, is built ala Tshuva HaEmunit. It's built on the concept that we want to come back to our natural spiritual state, according to the way the Torah tells us. In its depth, Yeshnam Pratim Leincheka, there's so many details of how to come back properly, spiritually to God. Asher Ach Klalehem HaYisodim Dorshim Archava Diburim Ubrim Rabim. We want to get into, we need a lot of work of how to do the proper tshuva. We have the Rambam stages of tshuva and all the different mitzvot and how to come back in different ways. Ben Adam Makum, Ben Adam Chavero, and so on. There's endless details of what the Nevi'im tell us of how to come back to Hashem properly. Ad Matai Ten Poskim Ashtei Seifim. That Eliyahu tells us there's different ways of how we put ourselves back into a natural state spiritually with Emunah and Mesorah.
Right. That reminds me of something I heard by Rav Sherlo when he was doing a Tanakh class, and he said, if you just read the Tanakh without really thinking about it, or at least there could be 100 prakim of Navi. If you take Yirmiyahu, Yechezkel, Yeshayahu, you take all of them, you could sum it up. If you don't go into the details and you don't and you just take it, you could sum it up. It's like, if you do Avodah Zarah, you're going to get punished and it'll be galut. And if you do tshuva, Hashem will protect you and let you live happily in Eretz Yisrael. And close the book. You can read those. It's more than 100 prakim of all of those Navi, as if that's what's going on.
Then we wouldn't need 100 prakim.
Exactly. So if you learn them with you're looking into actually what the story is, what each lesson, what each nevuah is coming to add, you all of a sudden realize that there's nuance in the type of sin, and there's nuance in the type of tshuva that's needed depending on the story and depending on the time and depending on whatever challenges we're facing the people at that given time.
Which, if it's written in Navi, it's also relevant for us today because not all the Nevi'im were written down. And I just want to add on something I was just learning on Shabbos. I was reviewing Ziering from Rav Kook and the klalut of Torah, and that everything ultimately comes from God, and therefore there's good in everything, and therefore the tshuva and why we need perhaps so many prakim and Navi is because we don't want to throw out the baby with the soap water. They say there's always good in everything. You don't want to we want to get rid of the klipot of everything, but we also want to find the good in everything as well. So tshuva is a intricate subject and how to do it properly.
Definitely.
There was a reason why we did the bad. There's something good inside of it as well to find. There's some deep ratzon that I wanted. What was that ratzon that I went after that? Avodah Zarah. It's a foreign worship. I'm still trying to serve God, just in a foreign way. Not that I'm magbiling Hashem, I'm limiting Him, but there's something good there that I'm trying to get close to God, and in all these different ways. And in the tshuva, we want to get rid of the klipa and find where my ratzon was, so I could channel it towards the good.
Right, 100%. If you take that even to a extreme perspective, which some people hold, the whole world of Meshiloach, Reb Tzadok, Chassidut Izbitza, so they take the Ma'amar of Chazal of Hakol B'yedei Shamayim Chutz Mirat Shamayim quite literally. In which case, when anything happens, if it's written in the Torah, so like you said, this sin being written in the Torah is here so that we can learn something from it. And this story being told, even there was probably a lot of sins and a lot of stories over time, and always coming toward saying, okay, how does
that tie into Hakol B'yedei Shamayim Chutz Mirat Shamayim?
Because the fact that it happened, it's a historical thing that happened. The fact that it happened is not by chance, it's not by accident, right? So there's a drasha that needs to be made, and that's I think that even Rav Kook, his capability to look at reality and his most extreme is the idea of kfirah, and understand what within kfirah is there, truth. Where is the truth there? What is the positive light? Where does it stem from in its positive form? It stems from that God is running the world. And if God is running the world and it's mushgach, so there's a drasha that there's something that needs to be learned from it.
We're off topic here now. I had just learned the piece of kfirah. I'm just going to give a one line.
Okay.
That if you learn Torah about God when you're 5 years old, your opinion of God should not be the same when you're 30. Our same way we develop our minds in every subject, so too about God. And therefore, Rav Kook says the kfirah that is happening now at the end of time is because we need to rip down some of the old definitions of God to rebuild it in an even greater way in the times of Mashiach. That we've limited God in different ways, which is avodah zarah, and therefore the kfir is coming from we need to rip down in order to rebuild an even greater, more geut Hashem of understanding how great He is on a new level. Sometimes you have to rip down the old to rebuild new. Obviously without getting rid of Torah mitzvot, of course. It's a little off topic here.
No, it's excellent.